Welcome to another episode of Unscripted Coding. Today we're going to talk about advanced prompt engineering techniques. This one is a really short one, but really critical to understand. To begin, we have Google AI Studios here, which means that I am using Gemini 1.5 Pro. Now this technique is going to work with anyone, but it's particularly pertinent to Gemini 1.5 because of its token count. You'll see that it supports up to 1 million tokens, and depending on the stream of user you are, you might have 2 or 10 million tokens. Now if we go back to 1 million tokens, this is back of the napkin, very rough math, you're talking about 1,500 pages worth of text. You can put the whole Lord of the Rings series on paper into a single prompt and ask it questions. The only problem is that you don't get that in the output. You can take 1,500 pages, but the AI can't write 1,500 pages. In general, it can't even write 50 pages. It's going to be writing 1,000, maybe 2,000 words at a time. Now, given this imbalance, the token count might sound and feel like a real limitation. And so today, I'm just going to show you right here. We're going to take Kafka's Metamorphoses book. It's not the longest book in the world. In fact, it's quite a short story, but we're just going to scroll all the way down here. And we're going to ask the AI to summarize this book. Please summarize the following book. Okay, and it's going to take a little bit of time to run, but it's going to be limited in what it can do. Now, if you're looking for 2 or 3 sentence summaries, or 2 or 3 paragraph summaries, it's not going to be terrible, but this is the extent of the summary, 3 paragraphs or so. If you're looking for something more detailed, and maybe don't think about this as a story, maybe think about reading a court decision, think about reading an academic paper, you're going to want to have more detail than that. And so this is not going to be your ideal summary. How are you going to deal with this? Well, I'm just going to delete this because it's a fine summary, I'm sure, but it's not all that complete. And I am going to say, please provide a detailed summary of the following book. I want it at least 4,000 words long. I want the summary to be at least 4,000 words long. Number one, generally AI isn't counting by words. You're probably not going to get anywhere near 4,000. It may under or overshoot. It just doesn't count words all that well. But what I am going to ask it to do is, and this is the trick here, if you can't write the summary all in a single response, you should stop partway through and ask whether I want you to continue. You can provide the response, the summary, in more than a single response. I think it's fairly self-explanatory here what the tip is. Because they're limiting to, let's say 1,500 words or so, well, if we want a 4,000 word long summary, it's going to need to write it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chunks. And sometimes they don't max out. They're just going to give you, say, a 500 word chunk, because logically it makes sense to stop, just like any reasonable person would. And so I've asked it to stop and then ask if I want to continue. Now you can change this behavior as you see fit. I like that it ends with a little bit of, I'm not really done yet, would you like me to continue, to really tell me that it hasn't completed it yet. And so if I start this, you will see a different type of response once I click run. And so once again, this will take a little bit of time here. You'll notice it says a detailed summary now, and it's going to run. Now even this part 1, you can see it's already gotten to a much longer summary. I'm just going to wait for it to have to stop itself. Not the greatest demo here, but sometimes you run into issues. I'm going to say, have you finished your summary? If not, please continue. And so now it's going to continue. And of course, there are some safety settings that have caused some issue here, so I've turned it down and rerun it. And here we go. So we got part 1 and part 2, and now we're going to see part 3. I wish it followed my instructions. Most of the time it does, but you're going to need to think on your feet when you're working with imperfect AI chatbots. So I think I'm going to stop here and keep this video very short, but understanding the limitations of AI and trying to get around it is really important, because how this works and why you might think that's not a great idea is that every time you ask it a question, ask AI a question, it really is parsing the last couple of messages as well. And so generally, I think most designs are 15 to 20 messages directly in the conversation. So when you submit this last question here, have you finished your summary? If not, please continue. The AI actually sees your initial instruction, the book, and its first attempt, or the first half of the summary, and then your new instructions. So it knows that this is exactly the point it left off, and it can continue in the next section. So it's very well aware. There's not a whole lot of splicing that could cause issue. It just moves to the next section and the next section very easily. Now, Google Gemini is has by far the largest token count, so you can have a really long summary about really long documents. As long as you're not putting multiple books in there, you're good to go. If you're using smaller models or older models, you're going to run into the token count fairly quickly, and so you wouldn't even be able to put this whole book in many of the older models, and even if you did, you're going to have trouble because it's not going to have room for the first part of the summary, your instructions, whatever is dropped off. And that's it. Clever prompting will let you get around some of the technical challenges associated with AI chatbots. I hope you found that helpful, and next week we will tackle another project on unscripted coding. Thanks for watching. Bye.